today, hopefully we get to provide that for kids and hopefully have more and more of these launches to the point where it becomes routine, hopefully never boring, but routine.
And there's talent in every zip code to make sure that every kid has the opportunity to do these types of things. If they believe in themselves, then we give them the right tools that they can use to be in STEM fields. And, we have a very diverse group of people up here working together to get Bob and Doug off safely. And I think more people that see this type of diversity will have a chance to say, I can do that too.
Absolutely. And, we have a lot of kids watching today, and we have an opportunity to hear from another really awesome role model, especially for the little girls in the audience. So we want to throw it over to Gary in Houston to talk to a very special astronaut standing by there. Hi, Gary.
A human space flight from KSC before.
Hi, Marie. I have the distinct pleasure of being joined by one of NASA's record-setting astronauts and a recent resident aboard the space station, Christina Cook. Christina, thank you for joining us.
It's great to be with you today.
Christina, we're coming up on 20 years of continuous human presence on the International Space Station, and you were one of those humans. What's it like to see,
exploring the universe, pushing the boundaries, getting knowledge on the space station, bringing it back to Earth for benefits here, but in how we do it. We're innovating in the implementation of those goals and of our mission. And what that means is that bringing in the private sector, bringing in a commercial space economy for low Earth orbit means space is going to be more accessible and more innovative. And it's just an awesome new era of history to be able to witness.
You hold the record for the longest single stay by a female astronaut in space. What's it like living aboard for so long?
Hi, Gary.
Well, it is truly a privilege every single day. I have to say, it's a big thing to look down on the Earth and to be able to kind of contribute to a space program that you yourself have held in such high regard your entire life. I would say that the biggest challenge going into sort of those longer times is remaining vigilant. The engineers make it so easy to live on board the space station. Sometimes you forget you're actually surrounded by such a hostile environment. So remaining vigilant both day to day to have that appreciation that you wake up with every day, and then also being vigilant, knowing that things could take a turn for the worse at any time, and you have to be ready to react to that. I think for me, it's a great privilege, but it also comes with great responsibility. In what we do.
You came to NASA after the days of the shuttle program, and you flew on the Russian Soyuz. What does it mean to have this private capability to fly astronauts to the station?
Well, I think it's just a great innovation in terms of our partnerships. When we started out, it was individual countries pursuing some space exploration. We brought in the international aspect of it, and now we're really folding in that commercial aspect, bringing the innovation of all of our American industrial power and recognizing that the more partnerships we have, the more accessible, the more innovative space exploration can be. So it's an awesome time, and it brings with it so much more capability into the program as well. So it's not only how we're doing it, but it's what it brings.
We're looking forward to having this transportation from private companies. How does it help you do your job in space?
I think what NASA for safety and to mitigate risk is called dissimilar redundancy. And here now we're bringing up this whole second way of getting crew to the International Space Station and getting cargo, last-minute cargo. So we're increasing how much science we can do on board the space station by twofold. We're increasing how we can get robust.
We're watching Bob and Doug go through the final phases of preparing for this launch. What's going through your mind so close to liftoff?
Oh, indeed. It's interesting because I think it's not so much what is going through your mind, but what's not going through your mind. You're not thinking about all the things could go wrong. You're thinking about enabled by doing what you've been trained to do. One of the things we have is that on launch day, astronauts are sometimes the most calm people in the room, and I found that to be true on my launch day too. I think it's a real culmination of everything you've learned, everything you've dreamed of, and you know that it's coming together in that day and that you're going to finally do what you're prepared to do, execute the mission. It brings a sense of calm and readiness.
NASA astronaut Christina Cook, always an honor to hear from you.
Thank you. Great to be with you.
Well, once Bob and Doug arrive at the station, NASA astronaut looking forward to having this transportation from private companies. How does it help you do your job? Chris Cassidy will be ready to welcome them on board. So in anticipation of their launch, he had this message for them.
For safety and to mitigate risk is called dissimilar redundancy.
Hello, everyone. I'm astronaut Chris Cassidy, commander of Expedition 63 on board the International Space Station, flying 250 miles above the Earth.
Always an honor to hear from
I'm
you.
excited about today's launch and the possibilities
But
it
once
will bring
Bob and
to
Doug
America
arrive
and
at
the world. But also, I'm very excited that two close friends will be arriving and joining the crew. I had the privilege of flying with Doug Hurley on both of our first shuttle missions back in 2009. Together, we
We're
came to
watching
the International
Bob and
Space
Doug
Station
go
and
through
helped
the final
construct
phases
the
of
amazing
preparing
facility
for this
that it is
launch.
today.
What's going through your mind?
Although this
so
will be my
close to
first
liftoff?
mission with Bob, it was my honor to follow him as the chief of the office when he left back in 2015 to begin training for this amazing mission. Personally, I've been very fortunate to fly in two different spacecraft.
One of the things we have is that on launch day,
Launching
astronauts
from
are
America
sometimes the
on the
most
shuttle,
calm people in the room.
and most
I found
recently
that to be
launching
true on
from
my launch day
Kazakhstan
too.
in the Soyuz.
I think it's kind of this
But I can't tell you how exciting it is to know that we're once again launching Americans from the coast of Florida. And finally, here's a story I'd like to share with you. Back in 1981, John Young and Bob
NASA astronaut
launched on
Christina
Space
Cook,
Shuttle
always an
Columbia,
honor
the
to
very
hear
first
from you.
space shuttle flight, marking the last time we flew
But once Bob and
Americans
Doug
on a
arrive
brand
at
new
the
vehicle.
station, NASA astronaut Chris Cassidy will be ready to welcome them on board. So in
With them,
anticipation
they
of their
flew an
launch,
American
he had
flag
this message
representing America's technical prowess.
Hello, everyone.
I'm astronaut Chris Cassidy, commander of Expedition 63
30 years
on board the
later,
International
that
Space
same
Station,
flag
was flown to the International Space Station. This flag remains here today, waiting for Bob and Doug. Today's launch and the possibilities it will bring to America and to the world. But also, I'm very excited that two close friends will be so many things to our country. And this small piece of America represents what we'll be able to achieve together. We'll never stop exploring. Together, we came to the International Space Station and so Bob and Doug can take this very special flag home to Earth, where it awaits its next journey to the cosmos. It was my honor. In a few years, as the chief of the first Orion crew will take this flag with it around the moon. Training for this amazing mission. All of this starts today. I'll be watching outside the window, along with everyone else in America and around the world. I can't wait to look out the window and see my friends on close approach. Go Falcon 9, go Dragon, and go Bob and Doug. I'll see you soon. Americans from the coast of Florida. And finally, here's a story I'd like to share with you.
And there again is a live look at Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center in Florida, where we are T-minus 1 hour, 41 minutes, 58 seconds and counting from liftoff of the Falcon 9 rocket carrying Crew Dragon with astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley strapped inside. We can see some raindrops on the screen there. It looks like rain coming down at the pad, but we're still monitoring weather, and it sounds like there's going to be another decision point before they start fueling the Falcon 9 rocket, which is scheduled to happen at about T-minus 35 minutes. So we just heard a little bit about where they're headed. If the weather cooperates today, to the International Space Station. Leland, you've been there twice, and I know just from what you've told us, it's this Leviathan in space and the site of so much important work and partnerships happening.
Right. Chris Cassidy is up there floating in the Columbus laboratory that I installed, or our team of us installed on STS-122. And I think about, using this robotic arm that was made in Canada. The European Space Agency built the Columbus laboratory, and my job was to use that arm and attach it to the International Space Station. And as it was getting closer and closer, the motion just stopped. And I'm like, what is going on? And there are 4 ready-to-latch indicators that have a very slight spring force that I was moving so slowly with the hand controller, the translational hand controller, that spring force stalled out the motion. And Peggy Whitson was behind me, and she said, Leland, there's some commentary.
1 hour, 41 minutes,
Weather
58 seconds and counting from liftoff of the Falcon 9 rocket carrying Crew Dragon with astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley
we're still waiting
inside.
for a weather update expected at 18 Zulu.
There. It looks like
therefore, the
rain
next
coming down
assessment
at the pad,
will be closer to the propellant load time.
Weather, and it sounds like there's
we
going
are
to be
currently
another
no-go in
decision
launch
point
weather,
before they start
but we are
fueling,
showing an expected
the Falcon
clear
9
of
rocket, which
18:30.
is scheduled to happen in about T-minus 35 minutes. So we just heard a little bit
Okay,
about where
copy
they're
all.
headed.
Thanks for the
If the
update.
weather cooperates today, to the International Space Station. Leland, you've been there twice, and I know. So we just heard if they were to launch right now, the weather would be no-go. However, it sounds like there may be an opportunity if the weather clears, as it sounds like they expect it may. So again, we're gonna keep listening as we continue talking. If we start to hear any kind of chatter, especially if it's about the weather, we're going to do our best to quiet down so that we don't step on that and everyone can hear it along with us. But Leland, you were just talking about the work on station, and Peggy Whitson was getting ready to tell you something.
Well, so the Columbus Laboratory is stalled out. It's about to be attached, and there were 10,000 people waiting. Their job security depended on me installing this thing properly. And Peggy said, Leland, push just a little bit harder on the hand controller, and all 4 ready-to-latch indicators went green. And I was like, yes! And that was our primary mission objective. But that paled in comparison to what happened next. Peggy invited us over to dinner in the Russian segment, and we had this meal with people from all over the world, Russian, German, French, African American, Asian American, this diversity that we talked about earlier. We're up there breaking bread at 17,500 miles per hour while listening to Sade's Smooth Operator. It blew my mind. It was Smooth Operator, right? You
What
know?
an appropriate song for the,
I know.
for the job, too, right?
Wow, does she know?
Okay.
She knows now.
And Dan Tani actually changed the song from Smooth Operator to Arm
So we
Operator.
just heard if
So
if
you
they
see
were to launch
Arm
right
Operator.
now, the weather would be no-go. However, it sounds like there may be an
And Leland, you
opportunity,
actually, we
if
were
the weather
in
clears, as
another
it
taped
sounds like
segment
they
when you got a
expect it may.
text
So again,
from
we're gonna keep
Drew
listening,
Foistel. Can
as
you
we
can
continue
you share
talking.
that
If
with
we
us?
start to
Yeah,
hear any
Drew
kind of chatter,
Foistel's
especially
good
if it's
friend
about the
just sent
weather,
me a
we're gonna
text
do our best to
saying
quiet
that
down so that we don't
the
step on that and
families
everyone
say
can
hello
hear it
to
along
all
with
who are
us.
watching
But
and
Leland,
thank
you
the
were just
nation
talking
and the
about,
world for their support and
the work on
interest.
station
And Chris
and
Ferguson just
Peggy
actually
Whitson
sent
was
me a
getting ready
text.
to
He
tell
was
you
the
something.
commander on STS 135 and one of my classmates from the 1998 class, and he says, way to go, Godspeed on Crew Dragon.
That's awesome. It's great to hear those words of support. Thank you guys for watching and everybody following along at home. I mean, the COVID-19 situation has been just a tough time for people stuck inside, homeschooling their kids, still trying to do their jobs, and so it's really cool to be able to watch this happening. And we see the pad closeout team. It looks like they are getting ready, or they've left the white room and they've already come down the crew access arm, so they are getting ready to leave now.
17,500 miles per hour while listening to Sade's Smooth Operator.
And we are going to go now to the Operations and Support 2, where Daryl Nail is standing by with NASA's Chief of Staff to talk to us a little bit about some of NASA's ambitions beyond the International Space Station and its Work with Crew program. Daryl?
Yeah, that's right. We're here in the mission briefing room at the top of Operations and Support building here, where there's a lot of important people that are gathering to watch the launch here. And one of those people, it's not me, by the way, one of those people that is important is Gabe Schaff. We appreciate you being here.
Hey, thanks for having me, Daryl.
You got kind of the insight of what's coming down the pike here at NASA. So, of course, today is Commercial Crew. We're focused on that and seeding the commercial market. But what's off in the horizon for NASA?
Well, I'll just tell you, it's an incredibly exciting time to be at NASA, and you know this. I mean, you're here every day. But whenever you think about what we're doing with Commercial Crew, in the horizon in July, we're launching Mars Perseverance, which is just going to be an incredible thing for us. You look at the end of this year, our station up there in Ohio down to KSC. So we're looking at checking it out throughout next year, and hopefully we'll have the first integrated flight of SLS and Orion at the end of 2021. And I'm telling you, that is going to be a moment.
That will be exciting.
Yeah.
And there will be a thunderous boom right here at the Kennedy Space Center. So with Mars as the end goal, how does all of this get to that end point?
You bet. No, and I think that's what's so important about the Artemis program, right? Our long-term vision is to get to Mars, but when you think about Artemis, everything that we're doing at the moon is helping us learn, prove out capabilities and technologies, work through the right mission durations, understand how we utilize the resources of the moon potentially to go further onto Mars, so the technology, the science, the exploration, architecture that we're putting together, each and every piece of it is helping us learn a little bit more, prove out a little bit more, so we can take that next giant leap tomorrow. Everything that we're doing at the moon helps prepare us system to commercial companies. And so we're hoping that we move to a day where we're actually buying a service to get our astronauts back and forth to the moon. So actually enabling the commercial market to go from low Earth orbit all the way out to lunar orbit. Commercial Crew is a great proving ground for that, helps us prove out that business case, build those partnerships, and then we get a feed forward to the moon. So it means a lot. This means move out.
And it's really exciting when you talk about the commercial crew, the commercial aspect going to the moon and those partners. They're going to be studying those landers to see if they are viable for NASA?
Yeah, working through a tremendous process of with the commercial providers and NASA engineers going through and right now looking at the capabilities that they've proposed and then trying to make decisions on which landing system goes early in 2024, which landings that are prepared for sustainability out in the later 20s. And so that is going to be an ongoing process throughout this year and moving into next. So it's going to be really exciting to kind of see what comes out as, hey, this is the lander that's going to take the first woman and the next man to the moon in 2024.
Right, so different than the
mission durations, understand how we utilize the resources of the moon potentially to go further onto Mars, so the technology, the science, the exploration, architecture that we're putting together
of Apollo when we went to the moon, and that program ultimately came to
those
an end.
landers.
The idea here, though, is to try to create some sustainability. Talk about that.
Right, and sustainability, you can get to sustainability if you have reusability, right? And that's what we're seeing with Commercial Crew for sure. But whenever you think about our human landing system, you're looking at a system that we put out there at the moon once we get to sustainability, and it's going back and forth, taking multiple trips to the lunar surface, back up to Gateway, which you're familiar with, is kind of our smaller space station we're going to put in orbit around the moon. So we are building an architecture that is going to enable reusability at the moon. Apollo never had that. And so whenever you think about driving down cost and increasing access, reusability, sustainability are critical.
So you get to see everything from a very high level at NASA. What's it like for you personally, I'm curious, to be here at the Kennedy Space Center to watch a launch and to just see this amazing facility where all of this activity happens?
Yeah. I think sometimes people think since I work at NASA, I'm around this stuff all the time. I'm not, right? I don't get to come down here nearly as often as I'd like. So it's just as exciting for me as it is for anybody else in this room. When you think about all the hard work that our team has put in to get us to this day, to actually come down and be a part of it with them is just overwhelming and incredible. So we're just a little bit excited.
All right, Gabe Sherman, NASA's Chief of Staff, we appreciate you joining us today and enjoy the launch. And I certainly know you will if we're able to get that one off. We're going to toss this back now to Hawthorne, California.
Joining us now is SpaceX's Lars Blackmore to discuss SpaceX's future ambitions to visit the moon and Mars. Thanks for joining us again today for a second round. Could you tell us just a little bit about your background and what you do here at SpaceX?
Yeah, well, I'm in charge of entry and landing for Starship, which is SpaceX's next rocket after Falcon 9. And before that, I worked for many years on the same thing for Falcon. So hopefully today you'll see another one of those landings on a drone ship.
Awesome. And speaking of that, what role does reusability play in getting people to the moon and Mars in the future?
Well, it's really all about making human space flight affordable. And what you want for that is a 100% reusable rocket. Now, Falcon is only partially reusable, but Starship is going to be 100% reusable. And we've actually already started working with NASA on using Starship to send astronauts to the surface of the moon for the first time since 1972. Not only that, Starship will be refuelable on orbit. And the combination of those two things will let us send people basically anywhere in the solar system with more payload for less money than I think people have really been contemplating. I think for the first time we can seriously talk about things like lunar bases, or what SpaceX cares about most, a self-sustaining civilization on Mars.
Right, so what you're saying is I will have an opportunity soon to get on board one of those spaceships.
I very much hope so.
So speaking of reusability and landing, I know you mentioned Starship will be refuelable in orbit, but Falcon does come back and land back on Earth. What are the challenges with actually landing on the moon and landing on a planet like Mars?
Yeah, well,
Joining us
you
now is
can't land like a
SpaceX's
plane
Lars Blackmore
because
to
the moon and
SpaceX's
Mars
future
either have
ambitions
no
to visit the
atmosphere
moon and
or
Mars.
have a very
Thanks
thin
for joining
atmosphere,
us
and
again
even if you
today
could,
for a
there's no
second
runway
round.
that someone's built
Could
for
you
you.
tell us
So
just
that's
a little
one
bit
of the
about
reasons
your
that we
background
do
and what you do
propulsive
here
landing
at
on
at
Falcon,
SpaceX?
because we want to figure out how to do propulsive landing that fundamental architecture works on basically any planet. If you have no atmosphere like the moon, you do a propulsive landing burn all the way. If you have a thick atmosphere like Earth, you let the atmosphere slow you down as you float down and do a short landing burn at the end.
And speaking of
for
that,
Mars,
what
which has an
role
atmosphere
does
but a very thin
reusability
one,
play,
you do something in between the two.
in getting people to
Yeah, that sounds
the
really
moon and
difficult.
Mars in the future? And I'm sure there's been a lot of effort put into that. Can you tell us anything about what we're working on now to get us to a point where we can do a landing like that in such a harsh environment?
Yeah, so figuring out propulsive landing is really the key part of it. But what people may not realize is that every time we bring Falcon back, we do something called an entry burn. So just before we hit the atmosphere, we light the engines to slow the rocket down. That happens high up where the air is very thin, and it just so happens that the conditions there are very similar to what a Mars landing burn would look like. So even though it takes months to get to Mars, and you can only do it every 2 years when the planets line up, we effectively get to practice Mars
So what you're
propulsive
saying
landing
is I
every
will have an
time
opportunity
we bring
soon
Falcon back,
to get on
including
board one of
hopefully
those
today.
spaceships. Wow. And as you mentioned, every time we bring Falcon back, we learn something new. Can you tell us a little bit more about what we learn after the vehicle has returned and we're able to check out the vehicle?
Yeah, so Jessica actually mentioned this earlier, that I talked about how cost is really one benefit of reusability, but reliability is the other benefit. Because you do all this planning to send a rocket up through the rigors of launch and re-entry, but you don't get to see the rocket afterwards. And what we would like to do with reusability, what we've been able to do with Falcon 9, is see the rocket, inspect it, and because of that, we've been able to correlate our models pre-flight to what actually happens when you launch, re-enter, and land the rocket.
Right, instead of just guessing what happened to the vehicle after it's left. That is amazing. Well, thank you again for joining us today for a second round. Hopefully the weather works with us today in a couple hours, actually. Let's throw it back to KSC with Marie. Into that. Can you tell us anything about...
All right, actually, we have Lauren here. Now, today's mission opens up the door to one day allowing the general public to be able to visit places like the moon and Mars. And as you've heard through several interviews today, reusability is a really, really important part of that. Imagine if every time you flew a plane from LA to New York, you threw it away at the end of the flight. That would mean essentially airline travel would be too expensive, costing hundreds of millions of dollars a flight, and almost no one would be able to fly. And so that's what SpaceX is trying to do here with reuse, allowing not just a handful of people to be able to go to space, but tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of regular folks like you and me to be able to go to space. So, myself, when people like me have a chance to go, I know my dream is to land on Jupiter's moon, Europa. Scientists believe that there is a liquid water ocean underneath the ice and that it has the potential to be habitable. And so I'm super excited to get up close and personal to maybe some space fish. Leland, what about you? Where would you go?
Wow, that's a pretty interesting destination. I think I would like to go to Mars. We've studied Mars so much and looked at it, and I think maybe having a Martian base that is dog-friendly, bring the pups along, because I think as we explore, we want to take our families, our cultures, our traditions, with us, and flying with Doug and Bob is cool, but having more people,
The dogs,
the puppers, taking the puppers to space. I mean, they're not.
They look ready to go.
They are ready to go. We just needed maybe some like SpaceX type suits for them, But that's what it's all about, exploration. Like the settlers going the West, they took everything with them, and they started these new communities and these new traditions. And I think that's what we do with space travel. We start new traditions and communities and bring everyone together as one family, one civilization.
Absolutely. We're here for it. And knowing that the opportunity to fly to space as a private citizen is really just right around the corner, we have a new poll question on Twitter for you. If given the opportunity to fly to the moon, now we're talking the moon, would you fly to the South Pole where where no one has ever been, or would you go to the Apollo 11 landing site? So those are going to be some interesting answers.
And while there is not a ton of cargo on today's mission, Dragon is carrying two very special payloads, aside from Bob and Doug, of course. The first of those payloads is a series of custom art pieces entitled Humankind by Los Angeles artist Tristan Eaton. These indestructible, double-sided paintings made from gold, brass, and aluminum celebrate how far humanity has come, as well as how far we still have to go. It includes a beautiful homage to the Saturn V rocket, as well as a nod to Bob and Doug's current ride to space. And you can find more images and information about these pieces on SpaceX's social channels. Next, in the spirit of inspiring the next generation of explorers, we wanted to celebrate the class of 2020, from kindergarten all the way to graduate school. So SpaceX and NASA invited students from around the world to submit their photo to fly on America's first human spaceflight in nearly a decade. Each graduate's photo was used to create a mosaic image of our beautiful planet Earth, which we printed, and it's now being flown aboard Bob and Doug's flight on the Crew Dragon spacecraft. We received nearly 100,000 photos. That's a ton, so thank you, and congratulations, graduates.
Yeah, I've got a couple of family members and friends who submitted their photos, so they're super excited about seeing their faces go to space in that beautiful mosaic. That was really cool.
And again, that's what it's all about, everyone coming together, looking forward to space. And I think regular people flying to space, SpaceX is going to be flying, non-military people, but people that have a desire to explore and do new things and traditions off planet, as we say sometimes.
Yeah, all this time since we've had the International Space Station, it's been government astronauts performing the research because you're the only ones we've been able to send, right?
But we've had some tourists, though. We've had people that paid their way on a Soyuz rocket.
Sure.
But it's really the Billionaire Boys Club, That's what Pharrell talks about with, it costs so much money to go to space. And I think that price point will come down as we make this more, more amenable for everyday people.
Absolutely.
And eventually being able to fly artists and musicians and poets, people can tell the story of what they've seen out there in a way that really connects to the soul of people down on Earth, so they feel inspired to go. Now, following today's mission, we will be one step closer to a future where we can all have that opportunity to gain the orbital perspective and explore new worlds. In just over an hour from now, Bob and Doug will be the first people to launch on an American vehicle in almost a decade. And for the SpaceX team, if I can try to speak for all of us, which is impossible, but I will say it has been an absolute honor to have the opportunity today to have this stage to show the world what we've poured our hearts into over the years with our partners at NASA. And it's just deep to be here today.
Absolutely. And I know that, our NASA teams really share in that sentiment. We heard from just a handful of them earlier when Bob and Doug were riding out to the launch pad, but there's so many people that we're probably never going to see or hear stage, but that have poured their hearts and souls, as you said, into this mission. All the engineers up late hours checking, double checking everything to troubleshoot and solve problems and get us to this point. So it's just really awesome that we've made it to this point.
When you think about Katherine Johnson, who helped get John Glenn to space, her daughters are watching right now. And that legacy going forward to the future of space travel is powerful.
And we heard from two icons of science and exploration on Wednesday, and we couldn't resist sharing one more time.
Artists and musicians.
Wow, we're making history again.
The NASA program. Out there in a way that really
I am there with you guys in spirit. Bob, Doug, good luck. I know you'll be fine. I'll be watching and got everything crossed, arms, legs. I'm tied in a knot. Can't wait for you to get back safely.
In just over an hour now, Bob and
This is the first time a U.S.-built rocket has taken people into space in 9 years. It's quite an accomplishment. So for us at the Planetary Society, more rockets means more exploration. More people in space means more exploration. More countries involved in the endeavor of spaceflight means more exploration. This is how we know the cosmos and our place within it. So congratulations, SpaceX. Here's wishing your team and the crew especially a safe journey and the joy of discovery. Let's go.
Absolutely, and I know that, our NASA teams really share in that great sentiment. To hear from William Shatner and Bill Nye, two very recognizable faces following along on the mission.
There's so many people that we're probably never going to see.
And we want to go over to Dan and Jesse in Hawthorne, where we are now just 1 hour and 18 minutes from launch. Dan, Jesse?
All the engineers up late hours.
Hey, thanks, Marie. Yeah, 1 hour, 18 minutes. I think we're tying ourselves in knots, just like Captain Kirk. We're really hoping the weather cooperates. In about 20 minutes or so, we might clear, so we're getting hopeful. We're getting our hopes up.
Yes. Very minus 1 hour and 18 minutes from launch, and the anticipation is real over here. Since arriving at the spacecraft, Bob and Doug were helped by our closeout engineers to get into their seats, attach their suits to special umbilicals that provide breathing air, pressurized nitrox, and a communications link to Dragon systems. They conducted leak checks, which were successful, and communications checks with the Corps here in Hawthorne, which is the person who will speak to them directly throughout the mission, as well as the launch director in Florida. This is where they are checking their comm path through both ground stations and the tracking and data relay satellites that we'll use to talk to the crew the entire way to the station.
And after all of those suit leak checks were successful, the closeout team was able to get out of the Dragon capsule and seal up that hatch, which also got its own leak check and was confirmed successful. At this point, the closeout team is out of the pad. They're away from the BDA, the blast danger area, and weather operators are about to kick off their final checks on wind speeds at the pad, which are going to be used during the final go, no go for launch. So we're all keeping eyes on the weather right now. Before we get to that final go, no go, all the various teams at both NASA and SpaceX are going to do internal go polls, just making sure conditions are right with Falcon 9, the Dragon, the crew, the range, and the space station before the final go is given. So let's
following along on the mission.
And over in Houston, Gary, for a status and the team supporting the space readiness for launch.
Where we are now just 1 hour and 18 minutes from launch. Dan, Jesse?
Houston remains go
Hey, thanks,
for launch,
Marie. Yeah,
but
1
also
hour,
very
18
hopeful
minutes.
about
I think
that
we're tying ourselves
All
in knots,
systems on
just
board
like
the
Captain
station
Kirk. We're really hoping the weather cooperates. In about 20 minutes or so, we might clear, so we're getting hopeful. We're getting our hopes up.
Yes. Very excited. Again, we're T-minus 1 hour and 18 minutes from launch, and the anticipation is real over here. Since arriving at the spacecraft, Bob and Doug were helped by our closeout engineers to get into their seats, attach their suits to special umbilicals that provide breathing air, pressurized nitrox, and a communications link to Dragon systems. They conducted leak checks, which were successful.
¿Qué tal, amigos? Sean bienvenidos al lanzamiento del Crew Dragon, oficialmente conocido como el SpaceX Demo-2, el SpaceX Demo-2 y el Crew Dragon. Y este será el primer vuelo de prueba tripulado desde la nave espacial privada Crew Dragon de SpaceX. Esto es lo importante de este lanzamiento. Es la primera misión espacial misión espacial tripulada de una compañía privada, es decir, que es de los que traen Tesla, ¿no? Y quiere decir que esto no está financiado por el gobierno de los Estados Unidos, ni por la NASA, ni nada. Sí tienen ahí una asociación, pero este es meramente privado. Bien, este lanzamiento fue programado para el 30 de mayo de 2020 a las 19:22, hora de Cabo Cañaveral, de Florida. Y se va a hacer el día de hoy tras la cancelación del lanzamiento del día 27 de mayo, que era el horario original que se había programado. Esto fue porque en aquel día hubo dificultades climáticas que obligaron a posponer el lanzamiento. Bien, ¿qué más le puedo contar? Será el primer vuelo espacial orbital tripulado que se lanza desde el suelo estadounidense desde el 2011, cuando se lanzara el transbordador Atlantis, como parte de la misión STS-135, donde el comandante de la misión, Douglas Hurley, que por cierto también va a ser uno de los astronautas del día de hoy, formó parte de esa tripulación. También será el primer vuelo espacial orbital en 2 personas lanzando desde el suelo estadounidense desde 1982 cuando se lanzó el transbordador Columbia en la misión STS-4 y la primera prueba tripulada de una clase de espacial nueva. Esta nave espacial es completamente nueva, que es lanzada desde Estados Unidos. Desde el vuelo orbital desde la prueba del transbordador Columbia en la misión STS-1 en abril de 1981. Bien, vamos a platicarles un poquito de la historia de este lanzamiento. Que originalmente se planeó para julio de 2019 como parte del contrato de desarrollo de tripulación comercial. La tripulación debería ser de 2 personas en una misión de prueba de 14 días con rumbo a la Estación Espacial Internacional. Pero ¿qué pasó? El 20 de abril de 2019 la cápsula Crew Dragon de la misión Demo-2 se destruyó durante las pruebas de ignición estática de los propulsores Super Dragon, antes de su uso planificado para una prueba de escape en vuelo. SpaceX trabajó en rastrear la causa de la anomalía hasta llegar a la válvula de filtro propelente en las líneas de helio de alta presión. El 19 de enero de 2020, en una nueva cápsula Crew Dragon completó con éxito una prueba de escape de emergencia en el vuelo. La misión estaba preparada para su lanzamiento en la segunda quincena de mayo de 2020. La NASA consideró extender la duración de la misión permitiendo realizar una rotación estándar de tripulación. A principios de abril de 2020, la administración de la NASA afirmó que dependiendo de la fecha de lanzamiento y la disponibilidad de la nave Dragon para la misión Crew 1, la misión se extendería entre 2 a 3 meses. Pues se espera que, tras el retorno de la nave a la Tierra, se le haga un análisis a cada una de sus partes antes de lanzar la misión Crew 1, y dicho análisis duraría un mes. Bien, los astronautas Benken y Hurley llegaron al Centro Espacial John F. Kennedy el 20 de mayo para prepararse para el lanzamiento. El cohete Falcon 9 fue llevado con éxito a la plataforma y la fecha fue elegida para el 27 de mayo. La prueba de fuego estática se llevó a cabo el 22 de mayo de 2020 antes del lanzamiento programado. A escasos 16 minutos del lanzamiento, se informó de un pronóstico climático adverso. Debido a esto, la operación se pospuso al día de hoy, 30 de mayo de 2020.
They're able to follow all the milestones still ahead on those display panels just above them, getting insight into all Dragon and Falcon 9 systems as we proceed towards launch. So at T-minus 1 hour and 13 minutes, let's check in with John I for a status update on the vehicles. What's the update, John?
Thanks, Jesse. Well, not much to add to what Dan and Jesse just brought up. We've had a smooth countdown this afternoon. The SpaceX team is working no issues as the pace begins to pick up here in the last 70 minutes. On Falcon 9, we did the team on console. Earlier, you heard the comm checks between the responsible engineers and the crew. The engineers will be making calls on Ascent for the crew's benefit, so they want to make sure that they could hear them before we go. The propulsion checkouts of the first and second stages are beginning right now. We're watching them begin to go through the process, opening valves. That check will go for about another 10 minutes, and that'll be our last one until propellant loading. Now, the team will assess readiness for launch with a final go-no-go poll at T-minus 45 minutes, and that'll be followed by propellant loading starting at T-minus minutes. Now, earlier today, Dragon operators also performed a series of checkouts of Dragon's flight systems. The spacecraft is also currently go for launch. Our NASA crew, astronauts Doug Hurley and Bob Behnken, are currently inside Dragon. The hatch is closed. The SpaceX ground crew has left the tower. The next major event for Dragon is retract to the crew access arm that you can see currently alongside the capsule. That'll happen somewhere between T-minus 45 and T-minus 42 minutes. Now, the range is currently clear for launch from historic Pad 39A. The worldwide network of ground stations and the tracking and data relay satellites are ready to support Dragon as it heads into orbit. The weather, that's the one concern. We will get a weather brief at T-minus 1 hour, so just under 12 minutes from now. Currently, the ground and upper altitude winds are go, so that's one thing that we can check as green. At the current time, we did have some rain earlier that appears to have let up, but we are red on conditions for both the electric field, lightning, and cumulus clouds. There is a expect forecast that will be coming up at about T-minus 1 hour also. May give us clearance of those conditions. So everything focusing now on the weather brief at T-minus 1 hour. Also, we should hope to hear about the final check on the ascent. It's 45 seconds universal time. Once we begin loading propellant, there's no opportunity to change T0. So once propellant is loading, we're committed, and we'll get one chance at it today. But currently at T-minus 1 hour, 10 minutes, and 30 seconds, everything except the weather is go for launch.
Thanks, John, for that detailed update. We've got an extensive history now of flying Falcon 9 from the Florida coast, and just last year completed a test run of the mission with less than an hour from beginning here today.
The purpose of that mission was to demonstrate Dragon's capability to safely and reliably fly to and from the International Space Station. The success of Demo-1 was a really exciting moment, paved the way for today's mission to where we are today. And right now we're getting ready to fly U.S. astronauts from U.S. soil for the first time since 2011.
We only have 2 astronauts. Dragon and Falcon 9 together have years of operational experience, or what we refer to as flight heritage. As I mentioned earlier, SpaceX has successfully completed 21 flights of Dragon to and from orbit since 2010, including 20 trips to the International Space Station. Not only have we conducted thousands of hours of testing, we've also enhanced and added a number of safety features to Dragon.
Much of what was learned with the Cargo Dragon was leveraged in the design of this new vehicle. It's fully autonomous, which means it can basically fly itself, but also features that full manual override capability just in case of emergency.
Many of the other enhancements help towards SpaceX's goal of reusability and less refurbishment time between missions. So let's take a closer look at these advancements.
Standing at almost 27 feet tall, from the very bottom of the trunk to the very top of the nose cone, the Crew Dragon is comprised of 2 main elements. You have the capsule, which is designed to hold crew and pressurized cargo, and then you have the trunk, which holds unpressurized cargo as well as having a solar array and radiator.
And the nose cone at the top of the capsule protects the docking system as well as the guidance navigation control system, or what we call GNC. The nose cone opens for docking and remains attached to the Crew Dragon spacecraft, and that's unlike the previous version of Dragon, and that helps towards our reusability efforts.
Completely opposite the nose cone is that trunk. It has attachment points for Falcon 9, the Dragon capsule, and it can hold cargo. On the very outside of the trunk, one half of it contains a radiator that rejects heat from the active thermal control system into space. That's the white part, and that uses SpaceX's new picotiling technology. The other half contains the solar cells used to charge the spacecraft's battery.
And though we only have 2 astronauts on board today, the spacecraft is actually designed to accommodate up to 7 crew members with modular seats that can be removed and replaced by additional cargo. The seats are made of carbon fiber and are custom sized for any crew member flying on board.
The control panel is centered right between the pilot seats and has those 3 touchscreen displays that gives the crew insight into Dragon and even the ability to operate the vehicle and fly it manually.
And finally, our Super Draco launch escape system is a key safety feature of Crew Dragon, giving the crew the ability to safely escape from the time of launch all the way to orbit.
And as we look to the future beyond this test flight later this year, the first operational crewed mission for NASA will take place. NASA astronauts Mike Hopkins.
To review your launch commit criteria and indicate readiness at the appropriate time. Step 5469 for propellant load and launch.
That's a good sign. That was the launch director. We're getting ready to pull the teams as we move towards that go, no go for propellant loading, which happens at about 45 minutes before launch. But back to our Crew 1 mission, NASA astronauts Mike Hopkins, Victor Glover, and Shanna Walker, and Suichi Noguchi of the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, or JAXA, were chosen to support this mission. Again, it's called Crew 1.
The lucky ones that get to fly it, but we
But today, Doug Hurley is the spacecraft's mission. He previously flew on 2 space shuttle missions as the pilot on STS-127 and STS-135, which was the final space shuttle flight. Here's a closer look at Doug Hurley.
Very excited. Yeah, very excited. Oh yeah, I think we're ready. I think we're certainly ready.
Joining the SpaceX Demo-2 test. He is a Marine Corps colonel and test pilot. He was selected as an astronaut in 2000. He piloted Space Shuttle Endeavour and Atlantis for STS-135, the final space shuttle mission. Introducing NASA astronaut Doug Hurley.
It's a life-changing process in so many ways to fly into space. It's just overwhelming in some respects.
3.5 minutes away from launch. Now let's learn a little bit more about
Just the sensations, the rumbling, the shaking, the acceleration. My name is Doug Hurley, and I'm the spacecraft commander for the Demo-2 mission to the International Space Station.
Really focused on the space shuttle and the International Space Station, learning those systems. Having launched a couple times on vehicles, you know, the second.
This will be the first time the Dragon had a crew on board, and so there's a myriad of objectives we want to achieve for this mission. What would work on orbit, what might not work on orbit, what would definitely work, to be able to just have the entire integrated team that's going to support us getting to and from space station. It was really neat being part of it. You know, we are the lucky ones that get to fly it, but we certainly not for 1 second take for granted the amount of effort that so many other people had to put into this to make it successful.
For Doug personally, he's worked so hard, I mean, through his entire life, to get to where we are right now. As a test pilot, this would be the dream to fly a new vehicle. So it makes me so happy to see that he gets to be part of this mission, the spacecraft commander. I'm just glad to see his hard work and his dream just come true for them.
It's been a long road in a lot of ways for not only us, but certainly for all the folks that work in the commercial crew program, as well as SpaceX in our case, just working to get to this point.
We're a little over 1 hour, 3.5 minutes away from launch. Now let's learn a little bit more about the man sitting next to Doug Hurley inside Dragon, NASA astronaut Bob Behnken.
We've got a lot of objectives.
My career at NASA has kind of spanned a couple of decades at this point. I arrived with the class of 2000, went through the training program, primarily focused on the space shuttle and the International Space Station, learning those systems. Having launched a couple times on vehicles, you know, the second time was definitely different than the first time. You can feel a little bit guilty of, hey, should I study one more thing, or is there one more piece of information I should get? Am I really prepared or not? So that's definitely different between where I was on my first flight and where I'm at right now.
For me personally, as a spouse, watching everything that Bob has put into this over the last 5 years, the dedication that he's shown, the perseverance is pretty special for both of us, though. The way our minds work, it won't be until sort of the mission is complete that you have really a chance to savor it and celebrate it. This is a huge accomplishment for an Air Force flight test engineer to be part of the demonstration mission of a brand new vehicle. It's going to be amazing.
Without a partner that has that same appreciation, I think it can be challenging for some folks. There's a lot of work and a lot of time that takes away from family that that my spouse appreciates, and I love her for that.
All right, we are just
on a deeply personal level. I'm really excited that my son is going to get a chance to see me launch into space. Being an astronaut has been a little bit of an abstraction thing for him because he's seen me do it in old videos, but he hasn't seen me do it for real. And so I'm excited for him to see this launch. Really, my role on the Demo-2 mission is to make sure that we get this vehicle tested and evaluated so that we can move on to more operational missions at the International Space Station. We've got a lot of objectives on board the vehicle that we need to accomplish to really make sure that it's good to go. We'll make sure all those systems are working during the test flight so that the future missions will have them available even if they don't plan to utilize them. Through years of the NASA team helping to share that experience and teaching them the lessons that we've learned by going through this, now there's another capability in the U.S. besides NASA to operate something of this magnitude. I want to thank the entire Commercial Crew Program team that's worked together to get to this point where we've got vehicles and a launch pad ready to head to the International Space Station.
SpaceX Dragon in 6.4. Bob and I are go for launch.
Copy, go for launch.
If we look even further into the not-so-distant future, flying on a mission to space will be an option for more people as SpaceX plans to also fly private astronauts on board Dragon. Earlier this year, SpaceX signed an agreement with the space tourism company Space Adventures to fly up to 4 passengers on an orbital trip aboard Dragon as early as next year. And of course, it's NASA that is making private astronaut missions to the space station a possibility. We are looking forward to these missions, and we hope that you guys are all too.
All right, we are just 20 seconds away from T-minus 1 hour. This is going to be a really big moment that everyone's going to want to listen to. We're expecting a weather update, obviously hoping that the weather is improving, and so we should find out in the next 10 seconds or so. So we're going to stand by for a moment and wait for the Corps to give Bob and Doug a call, and then we'll all hear the latest.
SpaceX, you're at T-minus 1 hour. You are go for Section 6. When ready, report go for launch.
At T-minus 45 minutes, hopefully we'll get an update on that weather.
We'll put it more.
We've had a really clean countdown so far. It started with suit up just over 3 hours ago. The SpaceX team helping Bob and Doug put on their suits, conducting initial checkouts. And that right there was a call for the crew to refer to some of their procedures. They do some final checks. You can see them checking harnesses, checking helmets, just making sure that they're strapped in and ready to go. Once they're done with that, the crew will report their readiness for launch.
Family gathered outside the operations and checkout building before they began that roughly 20-minute ride to pad 39A. Really touching moment, saying goodbye